Memphis. Dr. King wasn't murdered in Memphis for reasons to do to Memphis. Dr. King was murdered in Memphis because his next stop was D.C. So with the breadbasket campaign, he was going to bring poor Americans to D.C. Nobody was going to leave until they had a home and a job. This would have embarrassed the American capitalist white power structure.
Yes,
they said, we can't let him come here. So they lured him to Memphis by killing the sanitation workers that got crushed up in the trash truck.
Yes.
That was a deliberate murder by the FBI.
Really?
To get King back to Memphis. Yes,
Okay.
because if he didn't come back to Memphis, he was going straight to D.C.
Correct.
They had to get him to Memphis so they could take his life, so the breadbasket campaign never takes place. But getting back to the Kerner Commission, the Kerner Commission was so powerful because it was ordered by the president. So your own researchers came back and said the riots was caused by racism, sustained by racism,
Yes, sir.
perpetuated by racism. Basically, the reason Dr. King was going to D.C. with the breadbasket campaign was fully justified and researched in the Kerner Commission report. Dr. King had to die because once he got his hands on that Kerner Commission report and going to D.C. with the breadbasket campaign, he would have forced the economic revolution in America, radical redistribution of resources. You would have saw this country be forced to redistribute the resources of this country if Dr. King would have made it to D.C. The reason Dr. King's hotel was switched from Holiday Inn to Divine Lorraine is members of the black community found out that he was not staying at the black hotel. And so they started criticizing Dr. King for staying at the white hotel. So Dr. King's team said, we got to switch you over to Divine Lorraine due to this criticism. We find out after the fact, the criticism was fabricated. They needed to get Dr. King to the Divine Lorraine Hotel because it was an easier target. The windows over there, the balcony over there, is like a shooting gallery. Perfect scene for an assassination. So they manipulated that criticism to force Dr. King to the Divine. Now, once he gets to the Divine Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, he's assigned to a room on the ground floor. Somebody from the Atlanta office of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference called Divine Lorraine and requested that Dr. King's room be switched from the ground floor to the top floor so they could have an easier shoot. What? Yes. We also know that at least two of the reverends there knew that Dr. King was likely to be murdered on that day. And according to the King family attorney, William Pepper, anybody can research. Do your research on William Pepper. Okay. Go on YouTube, watch his interviews. This is the attorney that sued on behalf of the family, proving in court that it was the FBI who killed him, not James Earl Ray. According to William Pepper, Jesse Jackson, allegedly, this is according to the white attorney, Jesse Jackson was a collaborator with the FBI to some extent with the Dr. King murder. So anyway, two things that make Jesse look guilty. There was a group of local security that came to protect Dr. King in Memphis. Just like my brothers come to secure me, grassroots security. There was some grassroots security that came to support Dr. King. I forget their names, right? Jesse Jackson told them they were not needed. He called them off. He made them leave the hotel. They showed up to defend Dr. King's life. Jesse Jackson told them they were not needed. That's guilt number one. Guilt number two, if you watch the video, go on YouTube and watch the video moments before Dr. King was murdered. They get out the car, they walk upstairs to the balcony. You see Jesse looking like this the whole time. What is Jesse looking for? It's on YouTube. Go watch it yourself. What do you know is about to happen that got you looking in every direction around the hotel, bro? If I'm walking with you up the steps and I'm doing this, don't that mean
you know something
about the pop? Here's the third piece. The Green Berets of the U.S. Army were the backup killers. The man who killed Dr. King, I forget his name, but he was a sharpshooter for the Memphis Police Department. But you know, the government doesn't take chances. They double up. So the Green Berets was put on the roof of the building where they claimed James Earl Ray shot from. Green Berets of the Army was up there. The Green Berets were the backup killers. The Green Berets, according to their testimony, who was on the roof, they were told to make sure they didn't shoot anybody who was not wearing a shirt and a tie. They said anybody wearing flat, if they were flat collared, they were a friendly. The exact word was friendly. So here's the question you got to ask me. If the Green Berets were told friendlies were not wearing suits and ties, they would be wearing flat collars. Might have on a suit, but a flat collar. How did Jesse Jackson know not to wear a shirt and a tie that day?
And on
Jesse was flat collar. Jesse was flat collar.
And you're right, because he had a jacket.
Billy Kyle.
Billy Kyle
was the reverend who was on the balcony with Dr. King. And when he walked away, that's when Dr. King got shot. And when they interviewed him, he said, he slipped up. It's on YouTube. You can watch it.
Yeah.
He said, as soon as I moved away so they could get a clear shot, the bullet rang out. Those his exact words. It's on YouTube. As soon as I moved away so they could get a clear shot. How you know who getting a clear shot and how you know a clear shot was coming? He knew.
So James Earl Ray was a scapegoat.
He was the scapegoat. And they were grooming James Earl Ray for at least 2 years before they assassinated Dr. King. So Dr. King's murder was already being planned in the event that they wanted to carry it out. But once that Kerner Commission report came out, and once that breadbasket campaigns got started, they had to take
J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes, orchestrated the whole thing. But the CIA was in it as well because Dr. King's comments on Vietnam made it an international issue. Remember, FBI domestic, CIA global. You feel me? So when Dr. King started commenting on global issues, that automatically brings the CIA in.
Well, I mean, okay, now we're going deep now. So I'm going to ask you this.
And when Dr. King got to the hospital, first of all, Dr. King did not die on the balcony.
He was suffocated.
He was suffocated at the hospital with a pillow. How do we know this?
Whoa!
Dr. King died in the Memphis hospital, not on the balcony. Don't get me wrong. Had he survived, he would have never been the Dr. King we know. You follow me? He would have been severely developmentally dysfunction. However, he was still alive. So according to the testimony of a white nurse, she said that the police came into the room where Dr. King was and somebody took the pillow, might have been an FBI agent, took the pillow, put it over Dr. King's face and suffocated him to death. And all of this is in William Pepper's book, The Assassination of Dr. King, which I think everybody should read or listen to. You can actually get it off of iTunes or Apple Books.
Okay, let me ask you something else.
They suffocated him to death. And then after they killed Dr. King, they wasn't done because then they killed his brother, right? He got some AD King.
The dad died, the mama died.
Right, but the dad wasn't murdered. But King was murdered, his brother AD was murdered, and his mother was murdered.
Shot while she was playing the organ.
Exactly, and I believe that was an assassination too, because what crazy person you know, because allegedly she was murdered by the Hebrew Israelite who drove all the way from the Midwest to come to Atlanta to kill a woman who's not a political activist. What crazy person do you know is going to drive halfway across the country to kill somebody? They're going to kill them right where they live at. You follow what I'm saying? So I believe she knew something that probably would have helped explain either of her son's assassinations, AD or MLK, and that's why she had to die. And the brother died because, you know, he was actively investigating who killed his brother, and he said he felt he knew who killed Martin. He said he traced all the steps. He was also working on anti-housing discrimination legislation. It was AD King, not ML King, who's responsible for black people really getting access to white suburbs and getting their share of Section 8 money. That was AD King. AD King, they said, drowned in the pool, right?
Yeah.
They said he drowned in the pool. But I think he was an expert swimmer. Number one. Number two, when the paramedics came and took his body out the pool, there was no water in his lungs. There was no water in his lungs. So if I drown,
water gonna be all in your lungs.
Water gonna be all in your lungs. They say this man was dead before he hit the water. The paramedics said AD King was dead before he hit the water. He was assassinated. They killed King, killed his brother, then killed his mother. Almost reminds you of Malcolm X, right? Because they killed Malcolm X's father working for Garvey. They killed Malcolm, and then they killed Malcolm's grandson. Look at that. 3 generations murdered. Kings, the Malcolms. And I bring this up because although sometimes we romanticize revolution too much, we do this because we have to, not because we want to. You understand?
Yes.
Dr. King wasn't looking to die. Malcolm wasn't looking to die. Fred Hampton wasn't looking to die. George Jackson wasn't looking to die. Medgar Evers wasn't looking to die. Our Prentice Bunchy Carter, John Huggins, Little Bobby Hutton, they wasn't looking to die. But you just accept the fact that death can be the inevitable end when you strive for your peace. Dr. King is unfairly blamed for the disintegration of the black community in favor of integration. Dr. King only fought to desegregate, or should I say, the only thing that was desegregated in Dr. King's life was social and public accommodations. Hotel, restaurant, public transportation. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Nothing else. Nothing else. The Civil Rights Bill of 64 was public accommodations. But we try to blame Dr. King for why we ain't got no more communities. The schools desegregated before Dr. King. The schools desegregated before the Montgomery bus boycott. The military desegregated before the Montgomery bus boycott. All other desegregations came after Dr. King died. Dr. King is not the reason the black community suffered through integration. We wanted to be with the white folks. We gave up our independent political power. What's stopping us right now from resegregating ourselves if you really believe that's the direction we should go with? Okay. I don't believe we need to self-segregate. I believe we need to empower ourselves politically and economically. In other words, I don't care where you live. I don't care where you live. But make sure we get your money. Right. Make sure we get your business. Right. Make sure we get your support. Chinese live wherever they want. Indians live whatever they want. European Jews live whatever they want. But when it comes to political and economics, they make sure they keep that shit all within their community. We have to keep it within our community. We don't do that. Social integration is irrelevant. Political and economic empowerment is where we should focus. To lay the groundwork for the mass incarceration of black males and to make the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. The 1970s was the decade of the mass incarceration of black males. This is the laying the groundwork. This is the evolution, right? Mass incarceration of black males because America didn't need us no more. Mass incarceration of black males and making the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. In other words, we're going to make sure his woman does not fight by his side for economic justice. And that's one of the reasons they rolled the welfare programs in the black community. The welfare programs was not to help black women and their children. The welfare programs was to distract black women away from the fact that if you had your man, you wouldn't need welfare. And even now, the black woman is still being brainwashed, some of them, away from understanding that the black man's unemployment and incarceration is a government-created condition. Okay. It ain't because he's lazy. Some are, but not most. It ain't because he don't want to do better. Some don't, but most do. You understand me? Yeah. This is the ghetto was created by the government. Mass incarceration was government. Miseducation is government. Gentrification is government. Economic justice is government. Police genocide is government. Here's what I say to black people who say black people are our own worst problem. If we are our own worst problem, name one institution we control. Give me one. Nothing. We don't control the economy. We don't control the prisons. We don't control the schools. So how can I be my own worst enemy when I control none of the systems that are crushing me daily? Okay. I believe they gave Muhammad Ali Parkinson's disease. Not that you cannot get it, because that is a disease that develops amongst boxers. But for Muhammad Ali to be the only boxer of his generation, you got to remember, he was hit less. Yeah. Muhammad Ali was hit less than almost any other boxer in his generation. How does he get Parkinson's? They gave him Parkinson's. Okay. They gave him Parkinson's. And he was trying to be the man. I mean, let's be honest. Malcolm X was murdered because people wanted his spot. I mean, let's just be honest. Right. You understand? So we got to understand that the ego of the Negro is something we're going to have to deal with if we're going to come out of this situation, because everybody can't be the front man. One day I got to give it to a younger brother. So if I'm more concerned about Dr. Umar being number one than I'm concerned about black people being number one, when it's time for me to pass the mic, I might kill him. You understand me? Right. I don't want him to take my spot. I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I've been Dr. Umar Johnson for 40 years. Who this young brother fresh out of college speaking better than me, a stronger Pan-Africanist than me, and more? You understand me? If I love my people, young man, it's your time now.
Jealousy breeds envy.
Jealousy breeds envy, but it also breeds a lack of progress. We can't move. Because guess what? One of the laws of nature is what? The next generation automatically supposed to be better than this one. Correct. The next generation automatically supposed to be better than this one. So if I'm not willing to concede leadership to the next generation, I'm not doing this for black people. I'm doing this to myself. In other words, too many black leaders are serving their ego, but they think they're serving the people.